President Biden planning this visit to Brussels next week, meeting with his EU counterparts to assess Russia's invasion of Ukraine in person. The question still stands. How much will his visit help the situation on the ground?
That's right. I'll be traveling with the president next week. You can see these scenes throughout the Ukrainian capital, reports of large explosions every day, search and rescue operations. You can imagine trying to find the people who live in places like that as well.
And we've got team coverage abroad and here at home of these events with ABC News foreign correspondent Maggie Rulli. She's still with us in Lviv. Inez de la Quintera is in Poland. Also, ABC News' Alex Prochet here with us in our nation's capital.
And Alex, let's begin with you here in Washington. President Biden just signed this bipartisan spending bill moments ago. So what does it include, in particular for Ukraine?
Specifically for Ukraine, Terry and Kira, we're talking about $13.6 billion. That's in addition to $1.2 billion that's already been committed to Ukraine. But we're talking about money for the humanitarian crisis, right? All these refugees, now upwards of 3 million, probably more than 3 million at this point, that have fled that country. And then also significant funding for defense assistance, military equipment, also training, and then also economic support for the region. But President Biden, he talked a little bit about it today. We're expecting him to speak more about the details of this bill tomorrow.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the trip. So we know he's going to Brussels, meeting with the NATO leaders. They're all trying to show unity and strength at this critical moment. There's a lot of talk he might be going somewhere else. What's the word?
Well, we know he's also expected to talk with the European Council summit on this trip, which is roughly around March 24th. But, Terry, what you're hinting at, we still haven't gotten word yet as whether or not the president will go to Poland. Again, that has been the hub for this refugee crisis. Certainly, we've seen the images from my colleagues there reporting of just the sheer numbers pouring into Poland. It's been a question that's been raised to the White House consistently since we heard that he might be visiting the region, but they have not yet committed to say whether or not they're going to go to Poland.
All right, well, Maggie, let's talk about what's happening there on the ground in Ukraine. Where is the fighting the most intense at the moment? Where do things stand now? Just bring us up to date.
Hey, Kira and Terry. Yeah, the fighting just continues to escalate along that eastern front and down south, and Russians seem intent on encircling Kyiv. They have been sort of consistent in that onslaught of the city. We know there was a strike there, an apartment building today. Civilians did die, sadly, in that attack. So that city just is getting bombed and shelled, it seems, nonstop. And that's the other big concern, though, is this war traveling west. We know there was that big airstrike on a base just 10 miles away from Poland, only about an hour from where we are here in Lviv. And there are concerns that as the war progresses and continues to escalate, the western front could open up as well. And there's been concerns and intelligence and even attack here in Lviv, which has so far been a relative safe haven for many of the refugees escaping. So every day this goes on, it seems to escalate, get bigger and bigger. And the big fear is, what is President Putin going to do next? If he gets pushed up against that wall, what is he going to throw down? Will it be more cities, more indiscriminate bombing? Will it be the word that no one wants to say, a nuclear weapon? That is some of the big fears right now on the ground here in Ukraine.
Well, let's talk more about the refugees. Inez, the count now of those leaving Ukraine, nearly 3 million, many of those Ukrainians going to Poland. What are you hearing from those who have made it across the border?
Yeah, Kira, more than 3 million refugees now leaving Ukraine. Half of them are kids, and the vast majority are coming here to Poland. The focus in Poland is now turning on how to get these people to other destinations, other parts of Europe, places like France, Germany, Spain. We know some of those countries are also starting to show some signs of strain. So Berlin, for instance, the mayor there saying that 15,000 refugees are getting to Berlin every day, and that city is starting to near capacity as well, just like Krakow and Warsaw here in Poland have also said that they can no longer take in additional refugees. We know 300,000 refugees have gone on from Poland to other parts of Europe, but that's actually quite a small number when you consider 1.8 million refugees have crossed into Poland. I'll tell you, though, they're not all planning to stay here. So just anecdotally, what I'm hearing on the ground is that there is a generational divide. The older generation, people who might have witnessed other Russian incursions, they are resigned to the fact that this conflict is probably going to last a while, and so they are determined to make a new life for themselves here in Poland or other parts of Europe. But the younger generation, young moms in particular, who've left their husbands behind, in many cases, the fathers of their kids, they are determined to head back to Ukraine.
Understandably, the plight of the refugees. Maggie, I'd like to go back to you. We hear about another round of peace talks held today now by Russian and Ukrainian representatives. Feels like the temperature has kind of changed on these talks. It's kind of storming out of the meetings when they started. And now, you got Zelensky saying they're going pretty good. Putin was quoted the other day by the Finnish president saying, I don't want to change the government in Ukraine, which speaks to me that maybe Russia's troubles in the field mean that they're willing to look for a deal. What do you make of the peace negotiations that are going on?
Yeah, exactly, Terry. I think this is what we all want to believe anyway, that the peace negotiations are happening. We know they went on today. They're going to go on again tomorrow. We have heard from President Zelensky saying, like you said, he's somewhat optimistic. We've spoken to members of his cabinet, the top negotiator who's inside those meetings, talking to Russia every day. He recently told us that he's cautiously optimistic as well. So we're clinging to that desperately, Terry. But I have to say, it's a long way to go. These two sides are just on polar opposite ends. The demands are still completely contradictory. We've also spoken with people that say it's almost more than just demands. It turns down to almost a moral issue. What side of justice are you on? So those are some heavy value systems that are going on in the negotiation process as well. Terry, I think, though, that as this moves forward, we shouldn't necessarily expect that tomorrow the negotiations will call an end to the war. It'll probably start incrementally. Things like maybe a prolonged ceasefire or humanitarian corridors opening up. Things that they could actually agree on, sort of baby steps to hopefully slowly get us out of this war, guys.
And there's also the risk that Putin could use a ceasefire to resupply his troops, that it could be a fake kind of negotiation. He's done that before. Maggie, Alex, Inez, thanks very much for that.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.